Okay, so in the last 2.5 years, as that Englishman in Texas, there's been one question that Mrs. and I have received quite literally probably about 1,000 times, whether it be in person or online, direct message or on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, it doesn't matter. The number one question that we have received is how? How did we meet?
Right.
How did a British guy and a Texan end up here? How did we end up meeting? And well, we figured that today we would do two things. We figured, first of all, we'd have a drink.
Yes. Cheers.
And second, we tell you the story. Seeing as we just celebrated our 18th wedding anniversary.
Exactly. We were going to try and do this for Valentine's Day, and we just ran out of time. So then we were like, okay, fine. We'll wait till when Ollie gets back from Thailand. And coincidentally, it happens to be our anniversary as well.
And Texas Independence Day. That's our anniversary, is Texas Independence Day. You're welcome. We planned that 18 years ago. Sure. But, all right, so let's take you back to 2004. Right?
It was a dark and stormy night.
I think it was an actually really, really hot afternoon.
I think it was.
Okay, so essentially, it's 2004, and I'm in Singapore. I had gone to Singapore to visit my parents, and I had kind of fallen into full-time modeling. When I say full-time modeling, I'm not talking modeling like top models. I'm talking like posing with things like things like that.
That cheerfully.
Scoff all you want. It's very well paying, at least there. But there I was. So I was working for an agency called Phantom.
Yes.
At the time.
Yes.
And it was just, I think it was October.
It was October the 4th.
October the 4th. Why do we know? Because she kept a journal at that time.
I did.
Which I can't read because she writes in cursive, but it takes a long time for me to read that.
I've written extensively in diaries. So yeah, that one was like I left here October the 5th and arrived there like I left here on the 4th, arrived there the 5th.
Because she was with a very prestigious agency here in Texas, in America, called
Kim Dawson Agency.
Kim Dawson. And this is going to be, I think, probably another video, but when she was 15 years old, she was scouted as a model. She came runner-up in a national modeling competition, and then that started a 28-year modeling career. And when I say that, I'm Singapore, commercial. This is Paris, Milan, London, Tokyo.
It's a whole other story.
New York.
We'll do it another time.
Yeah.
But safe to say that at that time, I had been working for well over 20 years in the industry, and I had been sent to all the fashion capitals of the world. And I really wanted to try Singapore because I actually didn't know where it was. And I was like, you know what? Send me there because it sounds like it's on another planet. So I'm excited. Let's just go.
Should we tell the slightly truer version of that story?
No.
No?
What's no?
Okay, I'm going to try telling the slightly truer version of the story. Look, I was 23 at this particular time. Mrs. was 29. Mrs. was someone else's Mrs. at the time. And she was done with that story. That was now in her past. And you went to the agency and you were like, send me anywhere. Yes. And they were like, we'll send you to either
Greece
or
Singapore.
And she had been to Athens. Like I said, really good stories from Athens that we should really do one day.
Greece is incredible. I had already been, and I said, I am far too old to be pinched on the bottom by dirty old men in the bus. But
she's old enough to be pinched on the bottom by dirty young men in Singapore.
I mean, I'll give it a go. Why not?
So she never heard of Singapore. And thing is, right, you got to go back 20 years ago. Singapore is like the center of Asia right now. But back then, Hong Kong was definitely hogging it. And, there was Bangkok and everything else. Singapore was on the up and up. But in the modeling scene, there was something going on.
Yeah.
So essentially is she, as Mrs. of someone else, said, it's time, we're done, I'm leaving.
I'm time to get back to work, actually, is what I said.
Okay. And she flew to Singapore.
I did.
And so she turned up. Well, you tell this story.
I will. This part of the story I can tell. Thank you. But yes, I arrived and it was like, I think it was like a Friday or something. I honestly can't remember. So I got there right before the weekend. And the weekend, I mean, that's good for me because then I got to settle into a new country, to a new rhythm. I had to get over jet lag. It was a whole thing. And then I was there for maybe the weekend, which if I recall correctly, I slept through the entire weekend because jet lag was so bad. And like Singapore is like 14 hours ahead of here. So yeah, I was sleeping into the future. And anyhow, that next day I went down to the agency. They got me a phone. And back then this was, prior smartphones. So there was just like a little texting thing, which I had never done before.
Yes.
So I had to learn how to text. And I had
Americans
no
didn't
idea.
know how to text.
No
by the way.
idea how to do it.
In 2004, you
No.
guys were not texters. The rest of
No.
the world was texting.
Right.
America was not.
That's true. And so, or at least the part of America I'm from, we weren't doing that yet. So I got there that first day and they said, okay, your first casting was actually a go-see. And these are all modeling terms. And if I'll go ahead and, skip over that. But a go-see is whenever you go and meet these people, you actually go and see. That's literally what it means. And so it was at a local hotel.
Yeah. So her first casting in this new place was at this place called the York Hotel, where I was sitting by myself. Now, she'll tell a different version that I was sitting next to.
He was not sitting by himself.
I know I wasn't sitting by. I have no memory of this guy.
I remember walking up into the lobby and there was a little, sofa there and there was a little armchair. This guy was sitting on the sofa and there was a little armchair right next to him. And these two both look at me. These two guys look at me.
Guys? So
I'll tell you in just a second. They stood up, both of them, just like gentlemen should. And I was like, oh, wow, this is really nice. They both stand up. We all shake hands. We all introduce each other to each other, right?
So she was carrying
I was carrying the
from
model
the
book.
same agency. So I knew
Yes.
she's with my agency, but I had not met her. So I assumed, okay, she must be brand new. I also knew she was brand new for a couple of other reasons.
Wow. The other guy's name was Guido. He was not from our agency and he was not from Italy. He was from the Netherlands. I just want to throw that in there because
I thought he was Brazilian.
No, it was the weirdest thing because I was like, your name is Guido and you're from the Netherlands? Okay, never mind. I'm just going to go to the back. What the hell do I know, right?
So from my perspective, I'm sitting on this sofa and the glass doors of this hotel open and in walks one of the most beautiful women on earth. Were you wearing like an orange top and a brown skirt, I think?
I was wearing a black skirt. Yeah, you nailed it. It was an orange top and a black skirt. Very good.
Thank you
very
very
good.
much.
I'll give you that.
And she was covered in sweat.
Not covered. I had Abid.
Covered.
Maybe.
Covered in sweat.
No.
And that's how I knew she was
glistening.
new. Because look, if you don't know, Singapore is on the equator. It's one of the hottest places on earth. It's incredibly humid. And you learn that you have to walk slowly and you have to sort of like to not get too hot. And then you have to always have tissues with you. But anyway, she walks in, she's got the book. I know she's new. I wave her over. I'm a chatty guy, you may have noticed, and I sort of welcome. Now, what do models do when you first meet? You switch books. It's a great way to get conversations going. We start going through each other's books, and that's just, how we start talking. So that's how we met.
A model book is almost like it's your body of work that you've done. So most models, you can tell by saying, hey, let me see your book. You can then tell whether they're very practiced or if they're brand new. So if they have a book full of like shots from a photographer, you know that they're kind of new. If you open up their book and there's tear sheets from Elle and Glamour and Cosmo, then you're like, oh, this person's a big deal.
I kind of feel like she's throwing shade right now because my book had nothing in it apart from some shots from some photographers and maybe a couple of tears, and she had...
There was some tears.
Where are your books?
They're here.
Yes, I mean, she has some of the most incredible modeling books I've ever seen any model ever have in the history of modeling. And so I got, a little bit intimidated by this supermodel that was just sitting there next to me with all kinds of shots from all over the world. And I was like, okay, she's legit.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I will post some of these pictures in the video. So
You had some tear sheets too.
right. Okay.
You did.
She's being very nice, but it's
You
okay.
did.
So that's how we met. Okay, so we met at this particular time.
And you also had one of the most intimidating face cards I'd ever seen in my life. It was so scary. I was like, oh my God, I hope I never meet this guy because he looks terrifying. You got one of those?
I think I do. Wait, that's yours. Well, I've got the picture. This is the picture.
This is the picture. And at first, when I first saw this picture, I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is serious. He is serious business. He looks maybe Russian. We're going to have a language barrier. I'm like, okay, fine. This is...
That's my old one.
No, we'll find it. We'll find it.
But yeah, okay, so that's how we met. So, but that's not where the story starts. It's where the very beginning of the story.
Yeah. That's when
And
we
then
first met.
we bumped into each other at another casting. And this is kind of the way it works. You're bouncing around the island. You've all got different castings. And very often you'll kind of cross over at a certain moment.
It's kind of fun.
And then I think we were at a third casting was in the middle of nowhere. And it was for like what do you call those companies? It's just like
Stock photography.
stock photography. Yeah, it was a random casting. I bumped into her there, and every time we bumped in, we just start, yeah. You know, we were just talking and having a good old time. And so my mum and dad actually lived in Singapore at the time. So in this particular case, because it was in middle of nowhere, I actually copped a lift from my mum, because usually you just take a bus or you take a train.
Or you walk.
And well, Mrs. here, you know, she was on a budget.
I walked everywhere.
And walked everywhere. And
that's how you stay in good shape.
We were, my mum and I were driving by and we spot Mrs. And I'm on the way, she's clearly walking to the MRT station, which is the Mass Rapid Transit in Singapore. And it was a long way. And I said, Mum, pull over, let's pick this up. She's a nice lady, let's get a nice girl. So we pick her up, take her to wherever, maybe we dropped you back at your place, to be honest, because it was on the way to our house. You might have,
yeah, you might, I can't remember, honestly.
But it was the fourth time that we hung out that was like the time where it was like, oh, okay, this is kind of interesting. In as much as it's Orchard Road casting.
Which we went to Orchard Road all the time.
Well, no, what I mean is, so like I said, commercial model, top model. So in Singapore, as a fashion sort of area, that there will be fashion weeks, and there was one of those coming up, and so there was a casting for some reason on a Friday night at 8 p.m. on Orchard Road, and it was for one of the big brands, be it Yves Saint Laurent or Gucci.
It was a big watch brand.
Really?
Audemars.
Okay. Right.
I can't pronounce it.
So look, I know I'm not getting, now this is the interesting thing, right, which is kind of weird, but like I said, commercial models, you actually make thousands of dollars at a time, whereas the high fashion models, if you're doing a magazine shoot, like a high quality magazine shoot, the stuff that, oh my God, that's amazing, $200.
Yeah, it's not very cost effective.
If you're doing a fashion show, oh my goodness, oh, that's so amazing, look at them in a fashion show, they're covered in $300, $400, okay? It's like, and it takes up all day. And I'm never going to book this, all right? I already know I'm not going to book this, but your agency says you have to go, all right?
Yeah, especially if you're a traveling one, that I was brought in on a contract, so I have to go. It is my obligation to go to everything that they send me to.
So I'm pissed off about this. I know it's going to be a waste of time, but I'm like, all right, well, how long can it take? You go in, you do a walk up and down, someone judges you, leave. So I go into this building, I go up to like the 10th floor or something like this. Lift opens and I walk out into the lift lobby, and it is the worst case scenario.
It's bad.
The entire lift lobby, there is models sitting around the outside, and this line goes all the way through these glass doors and all the way into this office building and all the way into some back room where people, like I said, are just being made to walk backwards and forwards. True. And like this short little Malaysian dumpy guy would judge everybody. I mean, you know who I'm talking about.
Wonderful.
Lovely guy, but so mean.
He was not.
Just so mean.
Maybe he was mean to you, but he was not.
He definitely
mean to me.
was mean to me, but you
delightful.
are tall and gorgeous. So I come out of the lift. I see the entire modeling population of Singapore in front of me. I know for a fact I am not booking this job. And I just go, who wants to go for a drink?
He literally just laughed, threw his stuff in the air, and just like, I'm not sticking around for this. I'm going for a drink. Who wants to go with me? Just kind of like the same kind of swagger.
And she goes.
He looked so pitiful. He was just sitting there all by himself, and nobody was going to go with him.
Cass said he would go too.
He did, but in the end, even he went off to go home and watch Smallville.
Yes.
That's what it was. He went home to watch Smallville. And I was like, okay, now it's just me and this guy. He's going for a drink. All right, fine. I'll go with.
Stop. You tell the story like you're pitying me.
At that moment, I kind of did. Because like I said,
Lies.
No, I enjoyed his company and we had a good time. But then he was like, oh, I'm going for a drink. Who's coming with me? And I was like, and he's going to do this whole like, who's coming with me? Kind of like Jerry Maguire, like, who's coming with me? Nobody was going.
Hang on a second. You're using a reference from Jerry Maguire about a guy at his absolute lowest who's being... No.
I'm just saying that scene, because it's hilarious, because it's very similar to what happened then. Anyway, I elected to go.
So,
I did not go to the casting, and I'm very sorry, everybody at Phantom at the time. I did not go.
No, she did not. So Cass, there were four of us, honestly. We both have a picture. We have two of these pictures, the same picture downstairs. Actually, I'll find and make sure I put it on screen right now. But there were four of us. There was Kaz, Rada, me, and Zen.
Yeah.
We called ourselves the Fantastic Four, and we were just bests of friends, the bestest of friends. And Kaz, yeah, like I said, he came down in the lift with us, and he goes, "You know what, guys? I'm going to go eat McDonald's and get Smallville," because he loved McDonald's.
Oh, and all his friends were on Smallville because he was from Vancouver. So all his
right,
buddies
that's true.
were on it. Yeah.
And so what we did is we went just across the street. So if you don't know, Orchard Road is like the main road of Singapore. It's where all the malls are, all the bars, just restaurants, everything. It's just like, it's
Well, and
popping.
at that time, it was before Ion was
Yes.
there, and it was huge, but it was like very small, kind of little.
Yeah. It's 20 years ago, it was kind of a different place. But there was this
Very.
place called Indochine.
20 minutes ago, it was a very different place.
And so we went to Indochine and we sat down, and that's when we chatted. We really had a chat.
Yeah.
She got a pot of tea.
I did.
I drank 4 pints of beer.
I had a pot of green tea, and it was delightful.
And we got to know each other. So British guy, I'd never met a Texan. And
I had
you know
no
what they
extra
say?
money for a pint of anything.
Right. Yes, I get it.
Very pricey over there.
Yeah, Singapore's insane. Okay, so and they say the first thing you should do when you're talking is if you ever meet somebody is you never bring up
Politics, religion,
gun control, anything else, this, that, and the other. And as a Brit meeting a Texan in 2004, I was like, and the thing is, we had a fascinating conversation. Fascinating conversation. And I was just so enamored with she's very intelligent, very well spoken. She's seen a lot. And I was like, and I had a lot of questions, and I'm quite audacious. That's definitely a word that she's used.
I love audacity.
Yes, you do.
But yeah, he put all this information in front of me, and he was like, "Hey, because you're a Texan, let's talk gun control. Let's talk Bush. Let's talk all these things." And I'm like, "Hey, man, yeah,
Because I didn't know.
ask me anything." I was like, "Ask me anything. I'm quite aware of what's actually going on.
One thing that
Happy to talk to you about it."
Zen and I have a lot in common with is that, if you don't know something, ask a question. And if you can get an answer and be educated, you change your perspective. And
Absolutely.
She definitely educated me on a lot of stuff that I didn't know because I've never been there. And so from that point on, we were just like tight, And like I said, we were friends.
Oh, for sure.
She was married. I was actually in a 6-year relationship at that time. No one was looking for anything. We were just like, oh, she's really fun to hang out with.
Yeah.
And she was like,
You make me laugh.
And so, so that's how it kind of got started. She then at that point, I was teaching her how to text. She figured it out very quickly. And then we started just texting like crazy.
Yeah.
Because I was me and she was her. So she would wake me up in the morning and go,
With a text
You've got
at
it?
11 o'clock. I'm like, "I'm at the casting. Where are you?" But I would do that with Rada and Kaz as well. Although usually Rada was with me because she was up at the crack of dawn.
so we
same
were
as me.
always just like every day. We'd be like, okay, guys, what castings do we have? We'd all sort of collaborate. We'd sometimes go together. We'd go to the castings. And when you're done with castings, if you've got no work, what do?
You hang out.
You hang out and you go party. So when you're modeling, if you're wondering if, is it kind of like an easy life where people just give you free alcohol and you can get anywhere you want?
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah,
that part
no,
is,
it's 100% true. So one of the rival I say rival, but just other modeling agencies was actually owned by a great guy, David Chin. And it was connected to a club called Thumper, which was, what was the name of that hotel? I cannot remember. It was an old school colonial style
The
hotel.
Goodwood Park Hotel.
Goodwood Park. Well, good memory. And so, there was Thumper. And so because as models, basically what they did is models could go in for free and drink for free.
And thank God for them too, because we had no money. A traveling model has no money.
Yeah, everything you've ever seen on America's Next Top Model is a lie. There's the top models, and then there's journeyman models.
The rest of us.
We just live hand to mouth.
Yeah.
And
We're skinny for a reason, because we can't afford food.
and you just travel the world. That's what you use it for. There's two types of models, right? There's models like her and I who you work for decades, like Kaz and Rada and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And there's the other models that work for 18 months, and they become a model because they want to find someone rich and get married. And that happens a lot, and that's fine.
Or it's just girls who are like going through college, and then they're like, well, I tried this and that's okay, but I really want to move on into my other career, which is like ad sales or nursing or medical or whatever it is they're going to move on into. And that's perfectly fine too.
So we just started hanging out a lot. And so Thumper was great because it was so much fun. And that's where we met some of the closest friends we have in our life. Like two of our children's godfathers we met at this particular time. And it was the kind of place that, you know, the model tables, they just put bottles of vodka and mixers. And you just, like I said, you can drink for free.
Random cheapest stuff.
And they do this because there's all the female models. So that brings all the rich guys in. And the rich guys spend a lot of money to try and impress the models. And then the male models, we're just there because...
we can get y'all free stuff.
The girls there. And so, you know, and then it comes to sort of like midnight. And this is where I'm going to post a picture about this in this particular moment, is when the bottle of absinthe and the bottle of tequila would come out about midnight and David would start pouring them into our mouths. And
I plead the fifth.
No, you don't have to because it's on screen right now.
That wasn't me.
No, it definitely was. No,
wasn't me.
This is her holding an absinthe bottle.
Wasn't me.
But this is, I think, kind of what, like, and Zen has told me this in retrospect, is you coming from small town Texas, and you had come from sort of like an upbringing where I taught you how to just let go.
Well, I was very serious and I was all about the work. And I know we're joking about the drinking and the fun and the clubbing and all this stuff, but I was incredibly serious. And in fact, at my age, I was considered a geriatric model at that. And so I was one of the oldest ones. And so I usually, you know, kind of appointed myself as the one who would look after the young ones, especially if I could see you could see some of the new girls coming over and they're just like this, like, I'm like, I would take them under my wing. I'm like, this is totally normal. Everything's fine. You know, I'll show you where the best places are to go. Or like, you know, these are the friends you're supposed to meet. Stay away from this place. Stay, you know, I would say be safe and all this stuff. So that was very much me. But Oli did, you know, kind of introduce the fact that even though I was like 28, 29, I wasn't dead yet. And I could still enjoy life just a little bit more.
I like to have fun. I don't know if you've noticed. I do enjoy having fun.
You're a fun guy.
I'm a fun guy.
Fun guy.
Your glass is empty, by the way.
It is empty. Okay. I'm so glad you noticed.
We're going to do a little bit of a top up while we're doing this. Okay.
Don't get water everywhere.
Okay.
Ooh, it's all over my lap.
Okay, you do that and I'll do the... Okay, we'll do the story. All right, okay, so...
Teamwork makes
So we're hanging out. We're getting to know each other. And...
Cheers.
Thank you. I'm going to top it. She's doing ASMR right now.
ASMR. That make you excited.
So, jump forward like, I guess, a few weeks. And I have to be honest, like, we are obviously vibing. And if you ask Kaz, Rada, and some of our friends, everybody else is picking up on this. Now, like I said, I had a girlfriend at the time. She was in Hong Kong. Yep. Like I said, and she's...
There were a couple of people that weren't picking up on this. And I thought it was us.
Yeah. Yeah.
We weren't picking up on it at all. The chemistry, the fun, the, hey, we're joined at the hip kind of thing. And, oh, we're whispering, telling each other hilarious things. And, oh, no, this girl's in trouble. Let's go help her.
Oh, yeah. Remember that time that was, yeah, right. Exactly.
All the times. Yeah. There are so many times.
It's that, yeah, because there'd be predatory guys for girls. And I would go in and I would just like swoop in and help them out. And
I'm a nice person until I see that you're something weird about you. Then I want you out of my space and you need to get out of this girl's space. And I was very protective of the girls.
But we digress.
Anyway, yes.
But, all right, so...
more stories for another time.
Yeah, we got a lot. We should probably start doing this. We should do a podcast. Anyway.
We should.
All right, so then let me tell you about the time when I know for a fact I got her. At least got her interest. And this is one of my...
Well, let's see if he's right, because I don't know what's going to come out of your mouth. I don't know if it's right.
I won't tell the full story, but I'll tell the story. I had my first ever fashion show. Yeah, I don't worry. I'll tell the story, but I won't tell the full story.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I will. Okay, don't worry. I'm going to be delicate, but at the same time, this is when I knew she's like, what the heck's going on here? So basically, I was doing my first fashion show with Kaz. It was a watch fashion show, and it's just, I don't know if you've ever it's so weird modeling, right? And then if you have to walk on a,
well, especially back then, before the advent of like a lot of digital photography and a lot of things that modeling back then was different. It was just different.
Yeah, no, we're the old school models. It's shot on Polaroid kind of stuff. But no, I'm doing a fashion show, and when you're doing a watch thing, you have to walk out and you have to kind of like. You have to pose.
You're selling the lifestyle. Right. You're not selling the watch per se. You're selling the lifestyle. So, how fun is this person having wearing this watch?
So I'm super excited. And I'm like, like Zen. So Linda at the time. So her modeling name was Linda Black, but
Yes.
I always call her Zen. That's doesn't matter why. It's her name. That's why.
It's another story for another time.
We have to tell so many stories. Anyway,
We're storytellers, Ollie. This is what we do.
she says, "Yeah, I'll be there." Now,
Yes, I support. I am very much a safe place and a supporting kind of person. So he was going for his first runway show and he was very excited. And I was like, I am going to be there to support you.
but it was kind of tricky for her. There was basically, you got kind of screwed, and she didn't have a lot of money.
I got left behind.
Yeah, and so her bank account there was nothing in it. Wasn't her fault, and so she basically, is it Lana?
Lana.
From Ukraine?
Hello, Lana.
If you're watching this, Lana.
I love you and miss you.
Yeah, it's 20 years ago. You're a treasure. So Zen turns up at the show. She's there. And now there's one thing about Zen you have to know. I guess it must be a Texan thing or a female thing or a Texan female thing. But you'll never know if she's upset. You'll never know.
My problems are my problems.
Yeah, she's just, and it's like you'll never know, and she'll be out, she'll be talking to you. It doesn't matter how bad her day is going, and she'll be interacting. When she gets home, that's when she kind of lets it go. So my show's finished. I'm buzzing. I'm like, oh, it's amazing. And we're enjoying our drinks, and we're hanging out, and we're in this club, very famous club called Zouk that's now closed. And we're all hanging out. She's across the table, and I just go, what's wrong? And she sort of looks at me and she's like, what are you talking about? No, I'm fine. I'm good. Everything's great. And I say, no. What's wrong? There's something wrong. Are you okay? And I'll never forget the look she gave me. And it's just like,
It's probably a lot like the one I'm giving you.
it's just like, it was just like, what the, and I was like, and that's like I said, in retrospect, because we have talked about this moment, that was the moment where she did not. I was the first human being, this 23-year-old audacious upstart young British guy has seen completely through invisible shield and just seen that she is really upset. She's really sad.
I'm absolutely seething right now.
Guys, I'm in trouble. Send help. No,
but seriously, my problems are my problems, and I did not put anything out there at all. The only person I was talking to about anything was my dad, and it was already like nighttime or something for America. So I was over there just having a good time, just like I am right now. So,
but there was, I don't know. I could see it in her eyes.
Ollie, I will give you that. That is true. And that was a lovely moment that I was like, hey, this guy gets me. I don't know why or how, and it's super weird, but he gets me.
I was pissed when I got the full story. I took her home in a cab that night. Just dropped her off, guys. Don't be salacious.
Nothing happened.
No, nothing happened.
No, because we didn't actually find out until a lot later when I was about to leave.
Oh, yeah, we'll
how
get
we
there.
truly felt.
Yeah. Oh, yes, no, we'll get there. We'll get
right.
there. Maybe in 6 episodes' time. But no. But yeah, that's that moment. That is the moment where I think our friendship changed a bit. And I think that we realized how much we cared about each other. And how I think we were just so similar. Because for me, it was a couple of weeks later. So, like we said, if you're modeling, once you're done, you go and get some drinks. And so we discovered this place that I believe is still there in Singapore. It's one of our absolute favorite places on earth. It's one of the coolest pubs. It's just got this incredible vibe. It's called Number 5 in Emerald Hill in Singapore. You should Google it, look it up.
I hope it's still there.
I
very
bloody
cool.
hope it's still there, because I mean,
It's a cool place.
we definitely put enough money into that place that it should be.
I'm
still
saying we paid the electricity for the next 20 years, I think.
But there was a day that I was sitting there. I think we'd known each other for 6 weeks at that point, and she's talking to me. I remember where we were sitting. I remember the table we were sitting at and everything. And she's talking to me, and I, as men sometimes we do, I just completely tuned out. But not tuned out about what she was saying. I realized that I was having the best time I think I'd ever had. And I also realized something else, which was I was being 100% me. 100% just Ollie in this moment, and she's clearly digging it. As in, I'm just being me. I'm not, there's nothing else. And I don't know how else to describe it about like if, and I'm sure people understand this, but it's like if you've dated people in the past and you go, all right, I pull back a certain part of myself to not be, and I've even like, I remember when we actually started dating, I said, look, people meet me and they think I'm funny and they go, oh, what a great act. But what is he really like? And I go, this is me.
He's
all the
exactly-
time.
All the time. He's like this.
But I think that's why when I do television or when I then got into That Englishman is that this is actually what I'm like. I'm just who I am. I don't know any other way to be. And
No, and I think people enjoy that.
well,
Yeah.
I realized you enjoyed it.
Well, I do.
And that's the moment where and this is no dig on my ex-girlfriend at all. She was a lovely, lovely girl.
She was sweet.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just
We were friends.
in that moment that yes, they were. It's just in that moment that I realized I had known this woman in front of me for 6 weeks, and I had never felt like this ever with anyone, including with the person that I had been dating since I was like 18 years old. And I think that's when it kind of like, you know, it hits you, but then we're all, I guess where we lived it, was it Scottish Mike, one of our best friends.
So named because he is Scottish.
And his name is Mike.
And his name is Mike.
He was best man at our wedding, godfather to one of our children. As he would say is, denial's not just a river in Africa.
I think he did tell you that.
Well,
too.
we did live in a big state of denial about the fact that we were clearly
vibing. We were vibing. We just were. And yeah, it was just like we would sit there, we would go to parties, and you would talk with your friends over there, and I'd be talking with my friends over here, and then I have a drink, you have a drink over there, and we're just looking after everybody, but we are joined at the hip.
Like sitting like we are
as we often are.
right now.
Yeah. This is not for show. We do this quite often, just if not all the time. We're just kind of like, and I always rub my shoulder into his. But yeah, I was just like, hey,
Even
Make sure you're there.
When my girlfriend came to visit. And I say this like, oh no, because my girlfriend at the time didn't like to dance. And Mrs. was like,
I'm Texan and Panamanian. I love dancing.
no, but my girlfriend was like, no, please go dance with him, please. And so
She did, yeah.
like I said, it's just like we were very good friends. My ex and I, we were definitely just more like really, really good friends. But at that point, like other people were starting to remember the 65 text messages we got from Kaz when he got really,
He was
really
so
angry.
mad at us.
So we're obviously in love with each other. And we're
I'm like, no, we're not. What are you talking about? No, absolutely not. It was like, yeah, no. What do you want? No, not at all.
All right. Okay, I'll see if we can figure this one out. What was it? Well,
I say we had this lovely chat and time and all that, and then of course you took me to Tango's, so that's
no, we're not at Tango's yet.
Oh, come on! Yes, we are.
No, we haven't tangoed yet because we had to talk at least about. There was one night where
Tango's is another story for another day.
no, it's probably a good story. Well, you know,
I will never let you live it down.
no, it's a really good story. But before we got, well, the thing is, like,
we digress.
there was one night that we were hanging out at one of the other model houses. Mm-hmm. The alcohol was flowing, and then we ended up at Thumper, and the alcohol was flowing, and then the absinthe came out. Mm-hmm. And there was the night of absinthe was the closest we ever got to ever actually like.
Hey, I really dig you.
Like crossing the line, like, but it was at that point. I think, I mean, we knew too, but
This is the Tango story.
It's not quite the Tango story.
We're getting there.
It's about to be. But yeah, I mean, guys, it was getting like the you know, I mean, if you've ever watched any television show or movie where like you could cut the sexual tension with a knife, we are just absolutely tingling for each other, and just still.
Gross.
But not as in we
Right.
refuse to cross the line. We are. I'm dating someone. She's dating someone.
That
But
was paramount. Yeah, we were just like, we're having fun, but it was like, okay, well, maybe I've had a little too much to drink.
and I want to have so much more fun. And but we're like we can no.
Tapping out.
So you want to tell the tango story? You know what? Tell a tango story. This is, I'm about to be raked over the coals, guys. It's 20 years later. It's still, she's going to tell the story.
It's a tangent, but it's also supplementary.
Why is it called tangos?
It's called Tangos because
That's the
There was a lovely bar in Holland Village in Singapore at the time called Tango's. And about a day or so, like we went to, we had this absinthe night. We call that, I think, on a Thursday or something. So then by that next weekend, he's
like
texting me.
2 days later.
It was like 2 days. That's what I said, like Saturday. He's texting me saying, hey, do you want to meet at Tango's? And I'm like, well, it's kind of halfway in between where we both lived. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'd never been there, but, we'll give it a go. So we go. What?
No, I'm just joking. Keep going.
Anyway, and so I get there and he's already sitting there. And I just kind of pull up and I'm like, hey, what's up? And so he kind of like stands up and he's like, yeah, have a seat. Cool. And I'm like, okay, cool. It's kind of a weird little setup. Never been here before. And then I order a drink. He orders a drink. And then he proceeds to tell me in a laundry list, bullet points of all the reasons why we're not going to work out. This is not going to happen. And I'm like, sweet. Okay. I hear you. Yes. The answer is yes. I hear you.
I have a girlfriend.
He was
We can't be doing this.
He was establishing boundaries. And I'm like, I hear you. Yes. Going dancing? Wrong. Holding hands? Wrong. All of this stuff will never happen again. Absolutely. I hear you. Is that all? And then he's like, yep, I think I covered it. And I'm like, sweet. I'm going to go get my groceries. I'm going to go home. Nice night. See you later. Of which the next few days, I just stayed away. I did my own thing. And I said, he's established a boundary. I am now going to respect this boundary. I'm not going to text him. I'm not going to call him. I'm not going to wait for him at the castings like we used to. I'm not going to go to Thumper afterward. I'm not going to do any of this stuff. So that was like maybe Monday. And then by Thursday of that next week.
I love using Thursday. It was Tuesday.
I think it was a little longer than that, but he was literally like, I can't stand this. He just reached back, grabbed my hand and started walking down the street. And I'm like, okay, but just so you recognize you've set a boundary. I am not the one who's breaking it or crossing it. And you're like, yeah. Fine. So we end up at Thumper again. And so we're on the dance floor with all of our friends. And it ends up that we're just kind of dancing. And it was like, okay, cool. Okay, here we are. I can dance with you and I can, whatever. And I ended up going, really spending a lot more time with all of our other friends that I hadn't maybe in a long time. So we're just kind of like, yeah, we're having a good time, whatever. And I remember we were dancing and you had the same look on your face, just like this, like starry eyes. And so I just grabbed him like this, put my hand over his mouth, and I kissed my hand.
I remember that.
And when I backed away, he looked like I had just cold cocked him with like the fist of love, because he was like, oh, it was the most romantic thing I could have ever done. And I'm like, I'm going home because I didn't break a boundary. That everything that happened with the holding the hands and the dancing and all that, that was on you. So I went home. And then...
So I broke those boundaries down the next day. But we didn't. So like the thing is that and she's never also forgiven me for this, because she's like, Ollie, how could you not? Like, are you crazy? He
stopped himself from loving all of me. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. You can resist and that's good for you. I'm going to find someone else who can't resist.
It's not that. I had to do right by my girlfriend. You had to do right by your husband.
Of course.
And it's like, as much as I'm just like, as in, guys, she's never stopped roasting me for this. She also at the same time respects a little bit for that.
Now, you keep telling yourself that.
But
if that helps you sleep at night.
But yeah, okay. I mean, honestly, actually, I'm doing a really quick aside because I forgot about this bit. But it's the bit where I know, like another bit where she got intrigued by me as well, is that crossing the road in Asia is an absolute nightmare. Do you want to tell the Orchard Road story real quick?
This is really sweet because this was right after that night that we were in line for the fashion show that was like going to go on for hours.
And we had that whole chat, so we become friends.
Right. We had already gone to Indochine. He had had his beer, and I had the tea. And we were like, okay, well, I got to grab a taxi at this taxi stand. It was across the street. And at the time, there was no underpass. Like right now, I think there's an underpass. Oh, there's yeah. And so,
but you'd have to go all the way down across the road.
Exactly. It was super long. And so he's like, no, we're just going to cross. And I'm like, but this is Singapore. You can't break a law and you can't jaywalk and you can't do any of that. And he was like, meh, 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 meh.
I'm from Hong Kong. I know how to cross roads.
Right. So we're standing at the corner there, the green man.
It's like 4 lanes.
It's 4 lanes to get to the Marriott Hotel, which was right there. And I was like, that's the closest taxi stand.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I'm not crossing here. And he just reaches back, grabbed my hand, and just led me across. And I swear, it's like so much magnetism in that hand. It was just like, oh, our hands were meant to be holding. This is so sweet. I was really like Twitter-pated after that.
Indeed he was. Indeed I was too. But, so, all right. So how long were you, so we met in October. Mm-hmm. When did you have to go back?
December. 2 months later.
So it's getting close to the end of her contract. So I am living in Singapore.
Right. So he gets to stay. A model on a contract gets to only stay for that amount of contract because that's how much your visa is stamped for whenever you're traveling to do this sort of work. And so you might be able to get an extension for a couple of weeks, maybe a month if you're really lucky. But I had only gotten an extension for a couple of weeks. And so I was like, well, it's time to go. My time here is done. And now I have to go back home and back to reality, back to my agency, back to work, back to my relationship that I didn't even know if it was even going to be there waiting for me. Because things were said before that I had, for sure thought that, there wasn't much of a relationship to come back to. And so, yeah,
we got that. So she's going home.
I'm going home.
And so I remember that last day. I remember I was wearing this white t-shirt with black and green on there.
You were very sweet because you said you would stay with me the whole day. And I had so many errands to run. I had to go and see all these castings, pick up all my tear sheets. I had to go to the agency, turn in my phone. So then I wouldn't have had a phone after that and unreachable. Had to pick up my paycheck. So many things to do. But yeah, and he said he would stick with me until such time came that he couldn't stay anymore.
Well, no, because we were in the cab. Remember we were in the cab? And we're just getting sad. And she starts crying. And I remember because you left your makeup.
Excuse me.
On my shirt.
Oh,
she's gonna.
I think you're getting old. So what happened was, it was 10 o'clock or so at night.
This is in the afternoon.
No, it was not. No, it wasn't.
You cried in the cab.
No, I didn't.
On my shirt.
No, that happened in my apartment because you were wearing that funky shirt. Yeah. It was kind of weird. And so when I cried on British. You, it was like my mascara bled over onto his t-shirt, but it looked, funnily enough, just like the pattern that he was already wearing. So I wasn't too fussed about it. And
I wasn't fussed about it either.
And neither was he. But no, that was in my apartment while I was getting all my stuff packed.
Yeah.
And then you stood up and you're like, I can't do this. I have to leave.
Yeah, because she had like it was like 11 o'clock or 1 in the morning. It was
really 2 in the morning.
Late flight. Mm-hmm. And I'm just it was torture, guys. Absolute torture. And I was like, I gotta go. And I've got to let her tell this side of the story. But it's like, all I'll say is, have you ever seen The Empire Strikes Back? Because if you've ever seen The Empire Strikes Back, and it's the bit where Han Solo gets frozen in carbonite.
It's similar, but you always tell it weird.
No, tell your version.
Like, not my version. It's the real
I agree
version.
With you. I'm saying tell it right.
Okay.
But it's that level of, it's Han going into carbonite, and it's Leia. I have to say something, and it's basically I'm in the lift, and the door is closing.
Right.
And it's like, this might be the last time we ever see each other forever.
Yeah. Because 10 o'clock at night, my flight was leaving at 2 in the morning. So I knew I had to be at the airport by midnight. And he was like, I remember at one point he just stood up and he was like, I can't do this. I thought I could do this. I have to go. And I was like, I totally respect that. No problem. So we walk out to right outside my apartment was a lift.
Yeah, an elevator. Skip. I'm in the lift.
I'm telling the story. You told me to tell it and I'd be quiet. So he gets into the elevator and nothing's being said. And in that moment, I was like, this is it. I'm never going to see this person again. He's been so important to me for the past couple of months. And I feel like the most me I've ever felt. And so he's in the lift and it's closing. And I remember I just sit there and I looked at him deadlocked in the eye and I'm like, I love you. And he just grabbed the doors and he leans out and he's like, I love you too, but I have to go. And then that was it. He shut the door and that was it. And so out there, it was like the balcony was open air. And so I watched him, I was like on the 5th floor or something, but I waited until he got out. And then he was walking away and the cab was there. And I didn't say anything. I didn't have him look up at me or anything like that. I just watched him go. And I remember at one point he does this. I'm like, oh, bye.
And so she got on the plane and she left.
I got on the plane and I left. That's right.
But when you landed, what was in your email inbox?
I think there were 18 text messages and about 27 voice messages.
And I also wrote, I believe, it was at least 8 like paragraph limerick.
Oh yeah.
I wrote a fucking limerick, like hilarious kind of thing about excuse me. You know, guys, what do you want me to do?
It was all basically like we've made a mistake. You can't go. You have to get on the plane and turn back around. If you don't come back, I am coming to get you.
Come back.
Basically, is what it said.
And guess what, guys? She came back.
I came back.
And that's a story for another time. And trust me, we've got a lot of really good stories. But a lot of you of us...
That's the story.
Well,
and
that's
we're sticking
part
to
one. If you want to figure out how Singapore went and how we ended up in Texas and how we ended up in television and how we ended up right here with that Englishman in Texas. Well, I'll tell you what, if you guys like this video, we'll tell you some more. But
I'm happy to show up if you want.
So many of you have asked. So we figured, well, why don't we tell you a little bit of the story? But that's how we met.
Cheers.